Okay, so 50 Shades Darker. So 50 Shades Darker continues the story of Anastasia Steele and her obsessed, creepy boyfriend Christian Grey, and after leaving him because of that reason, Christian has found himself in a much darker place than before. And it makes Christian Grey go like, oh shit, I kinda need her in my life, and then he goes up to Anastasia and is like, hey, wanna try this thing out one more time? And then she's like, okay, yeah, and it's just like that, and you're like, oh well, so much for the ending of the first film. Then the film follows their shitty relationship and it gets into another steamy and exciting adventure between the greatest couple that we have ever seen in film. And I saw this thing. Let's talk about it. Now, 50 Shades Darker is the second film in the 50 Shades franchise, and me personally, I could not be more excited of what this creepy-ass world can bring me next. And you guys know how I feel about the first 50 Shades of Grey, and to put it shortly, it's a humongous piece of shit. Hated just about everything it had to offer. And now fast forward to today where we get the new 50 Shades film, and you're like, okay, maybe this one could be better than the last one. I don't know, we'll just have to see. But what a surprise, guys. It's another terrible film, but I'm shocked at the fact that, hear me out, this is way worse than the first one. Now, before we get into this amazing roast, let's just talk about some of the things that I quite admired in this film. I'm not gonna lie. But this film actually had some pretty good cinematography, showing the landscapes of Seattle and how beautiful the city can really be, along with the lighting that completes the setting that the actors were forced to work with. Now, I can sit here for hours just thinking of aspects I can take away from this film in a positive way, but honestly, those were the only things that I genuinely liked about this film. Now let's start off with some of the acting. Jamie Dornan as Christian Grey. This guy is Plank from Ed, Edd n Eddy. There's just really nothing to his character. He just shows no emotion or no personality, and I'm sure you can argue it's like, oh, he's Christian Grey. He's supposed to be that way. Which I'm sure that'll be the case, but when it gets to events where you're banging your girlfriend and you're just having a straight face the entire time, you kind of lost me as a believable character who's having sex. Not even the littlest things excites him, and you're like, dude, smile every once in a while, Jesus Christ. And then we have Dakota Johnson as Anastasia Steele, and she's just like Christian Grey, but the only thing is that she has a little bit of personality residing in her character, but she doesn't really offer anything new to the table. There were a couple scenes where it had potential in expanding her arc or even showing off some of her acting chops, but there are so many opportunities that it just threw all of them in the garbage. And I know it's not necessarily their fault either. It's more of the director James Foley's fault for directing such shitty chemistry between these two. It kind of pissed me off. He really gives that unrealistic and terrible connection between these two where it doesn't really feel like a real couple, more of like actors who are just there forcing out their lines. I mean, it's not really much of a secret that these two don't work together in both the film and acting wise, like together, but the thing that got me the most is that this is the exact same thing as the previous film. The only difference between Darker and Grey is that Darker has way more subplots that absolutely serve no purpose, or it doesn't add anything new to the story, and that's what kind of like pisses me off the most. Every subplot would end with the same shit to prove to the point it's like, oh, Christian Grey is too dominant and Anastasia Steele doesn't like that, or Anastasia Steele, she doesn't know what she wants, oh, but now she does again, but now she's back to not knowing what she wants. It's just an excruciating cycle of repetitive shit that, for one, doesn't teach our main characters any lessons, and two, it's the same shit that we've seen in the film before. That's what I mean when I say it's the same exact shit as 50 Shades of Grey, because there's the same problems, there's the same resolutions, and it doesn't provide any context whatsoever. Plus the pointless and unbearable subplots in the film. I mean, I have to talk about these. I need to go into detail on why I find this shit to be so fucking stupid. I just can't hold it any longer, so for anyone who wants a spoiler warning, I'll leave it down below, so please, enjoy why I hate this film so much. Now, the subplots in the film served absolutely no purpose whatsoever because every single one of them ended without the film ever bringing them up ever again. They were just forced plot devices to create problems in the main relationship, and you're like, that's it? Why did that have to happen? Now, the first subplot being Anastasia Steele getting a new job and assisting for her boss for this company that you don't really give a shit about, and the boss is hitting on her, and it's like, okay, cool, she's gonna create this little love triangle between him and Christian. Then he decides to make the full move, and then he just forces himself upon her, and then she kicks him in the balls, and she runs out crying. But Christian knows about it, so he gets the boss fired because he owns that company that the boss is working for. And it was never brought up ever again until the end of the film, where you see him still running around in the streets, and you're like, dude, you should be in jail right now for attempted rape. But wait, you gotta have that story arc in the next film, and logically speaking, that shit wouldn't happen in real life. And now the next subplot is the one little intriguing thing about the film is that girl that's stalking Anastasia Steele because she was once Christian Grey's girlfriend. At the beginning of the film, Anastasia like walks out of her workplace and then she just pops up from the corner randomly and she's like, "You're Anastasia, right?" And then she's like, "Yeah, who the fuck are you?" And she doesn't show up till later in the film until she breaks into Anastasia's apartment and ready to shoot her with the gun that she has. Only for Christian Grey to arrive in the apartment just in time, and then he does this dominant thing towards this crazy ass girl, takes the gun away from her, and she kneels right at his feet. And then she was taken to the psycho ward, and it was never brought up ever again in the film. But just the really shitty thing about this subplot is the horrid dialogue between Christian and Anastasia afterwards, because Anastasia witnesses the dominance that Christian has over this girl, right? And she was just so hurt by what she saw, and then she's like, "You still have dominance over this girl?" And Christian's like, "Yeah, she kind of had a gun to your face. I had no choice." Then she turns around and says, "It wasn't the girl with the gun who scared me, it was you." I'm like, Anastasia, you're being dumb. Christian Grey just saved your life from getting your dick blown off, so be thankful. Now, the third subplot is the expansion of Mrs. Robinson, the woman that made Christian Grey into the sex freak that we know right now. But the only thing with that is that there wasn't really any expansion. She only served as an extra character that only created more problems for our main relationship. It's like the one interesting thing that could have been expanded on in this film thrown out the window because she was only there to tell Anastasia, "Oh, you don't really love Christian." That's like the only purpose she has in the film, just to talk shit to Anastasia. I would have been like, "Bitch, fuck off." Now the next one has to be my favorite because it has that one little glimmer of hope where Christian Grey is flying his helicopter and he crashes it in the middle of nowhere and you're like, okay, cool, this dude is mashed potatoes. There is no way he can survive that. It gets all over the news and Anastasia's watching it and she's all crying and she's like, "Oh my god, my boyfriend is dead." And not even a minute later, he arrives in the apartment with just a couple of scratches on him. And I'm like, how the fuck are you alive? Oh wait, that's right, there's a third book and he's in it and we gotta sell more merchandise. It just didn't make any sense. Like, all these subplots that they had only ended with Christian and Anastasia having the same problems that they had beforehand. It's always like Christian Grey is a creepy asshole or Anastasia Steele doesn't really know what she wants. Christian Grey has access to all her bank accounts, her apartment complex, and even has a 10-page file on her that makes him look like a stalker. Anastasia Steele, once getting back with Christian, she's like, "Let's take this relationship slow," only immediately go into sex right after, and you're like, this girl doesn't know what she wants. How this is considered a romance story is beyond me. This is just full of shit, because what I'm trying to say is that 50 Shades Darker is an absolute abomination to cinema. I never plan to watch this film ever again, unless if I was forced to or I hate myself. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching my review of 50 Shades Darker, and I want to know what your thoughts are about the film, and what is your favorite actual romance film? Whatever it is, leave it down below. And as always, you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and all that social media shit down below. Keep in contact with me. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And as always, guys, may the force be with you.